Hey, welcome to Hard Rooster Labs. Today I'm going to show you how to import and set up your car body mods for Automation, the car company tycoon game. Some things about the editor have changed since my car body mod video streams, so this new important information makes me look like I don't know what I'm talking about in my old videos. So pull up to the bar and lean back because you're about to do a body shot with Hard Rooster. Alrighty, so this here car body was sent in by Max Bomb on the Discord server, and it looked about like this when I got it. Slightly different materials layout. This is a car he sent me to have take a look at, critique, and it's got plenty of work to do on it still, but it's a promising little body. It's kind of this like stylized Citroen BX looking thing. Kind of cool. I kind of like it. But anyway, I went ahead and added an armature to it because he hadn't done any morphs to it, and the only point of this is just to demonstrate part of the setup process in Unreal, not to actually do morphs, because I just kind of slap these together and they're not pretty. They're just there, right? So no big deal. It's not important. I also threw in a shape key for good measure, just for funsies. Just for funsies. There you are. Yeah, alright, so but it's got all the bounds boxes, it has everything we need. I went ahead and I redid the UV maps just because I kind of destroyed them when I did the bones. I cut the car in half and mirrored it and put it back together and all that. But anyway, let's get to what we need to do to pick up your car mod from here. We're going to pick it up from here, export it, and get it into Unreal. So we're going to select both of these objects. I have this tendency to, I don't know if it matters, but I pick the bones first, then shift-click and select the car, hit F4, and you can export in FBX format. And I'm just going to throw it on the desktop, and I think I've already done one. Put it in a folder for him. Yeah, it's right there. So I'm going to just go ahead down here to export FBX presets, do selected objects. I'm going to move over here to the geometry tabs, do faces and tangent spaces. And then I'll move over here to the armature tab, and I'm going to untick add leaf bones. I'm going to go ahead and overwrite this file because I don't need the old one anymore. And there we go. Alright, so it's exported. Alright, so here we are in the Unreal Engine, and I'm not going to cover like how to set it up and all that kind of stuff and where to get the tools, because I've already covered that in other videos. We're just going to talk about getting this set up, getting your mod built for doing a car body. So the first thing we do, come up over here where it says create mod. We're going to create a mod, and we're going to do a new body variant. And what am I going to call this? I'm going to call this Max Bomb BX. Something like that. Max Bomb can be the creator, and it's a car. Alright, so we're just going to hit create mod there. Let that load up for a minute. And there we go. So we're going to open up our car folder, open up our blueprints folder that it made for us, open up our body editors folder, and we've got our blueprint. And that's going to show up down here. If you don't see this, it might be collapsed like this, so you'll have to tick this guy. Or down here in view options, you may need to, where's the plugin? Show plugin content in order for it to show up. And then of course you can change the size of your, oh, hey, tech support has arrived already. What can I do for you? Alright, so let's run down here and find our file, cars, blueprints, body editors, and there's our little thumbnail. Now, good practice here is to keep your thumbnails and your assets similarly, not identically named, but similarly named so that you can find them later in your folders and use the search bars to find what you're looking for. So I called the, what do I call that file? So it's got this name here, BX Import. I don't speak French. Anyway, that's the name of that guy. So let's call it F2 BX underscore with ENTIERE underscore BP for blueprint. Alright, so now it's got its name. I'm going to go ahead and import that car. So we'll come over here where it says import, hit that little button there. I'm going to find it on the desktop. And wherever I left it, which is right there, I'm going to hit open. And I'm going to get my little pop-up dialog box here. Alright, FBX Import options. So first thing we need to do is make sure that this is ticked. Skeletal mesh needs to be ticked. Even if you don't have a skeletal mesh, it needs to be a skeletal mesh anyway. Moving on down here, we'll make sure that this is empty. Let's see, coming on down here, we're going to import morph targets. This is probably not ticked, but if you have any shape keys, you need to make sure you import morph targets. We don't need import meshes and bones, so we can untick that. We're also going to make sure preserve smoothing groups is on. Coming down here, this is most likely set for you to compute normals. What we want to do is set that to import normals and tangents. Scrolling on down, in the animation tab, it's probably collapsed. What you need to do is click this little arrow to open it up, and we're going to make sure we turn off import meshes and bones right here. Scrolling down a little further, we're going to come down here to material, make sure this is set to all assets, and then untick import materials and untick import meshes. We don't want those ticked. From there, we just hit import, and you'll get lots of errors maybe. Don't worry about it, just ignore them. And there you go. And here is our car. So let's go ahead and open up the mesh. That's the one with the little pink line on it. And we're going to take a look at our car body here and make sure that all the materials are properly assigned. So what do we got? We've got bonnet. Yep, that's a bonnet. We're going to look at the window trims, and we're going to just kind of go through and make sure everything is correct. Now the windows, you need to change this. If you have black windows, it almost always defaults to this. Just get this drop down and grab the red one. The red one will make sure that your glass appears properly in BeamNG, otherwise it'll come out white. Anyway, yeah, just kind of go through here and check all your materials and make sure everything is good to go. Once you're done with that, just go ahead and hit save and close. And go ahead and save these guys too. That's just Control S or just right click and save. Now let's open up our blueprint. It should be blank. Alright, so with the blueprint open, we're just going to come over here, we're going to grab our asset. Remember, that's the one with the pink line on it. I'm going to just drag and drop it right there. And then we need to come down here in the list where we see UID and expand that. And you need to generate new UIDs. Now, if you have more than one variant, every time you make an extra blueprint, you will change this bottom one that says GUID, and you'll leave the family one alone. That way they show up in the same family as different variants. That's all you have to do. You can set up some more stuff in here if you want, but we will just handle all the rest of this stuff in the editor in a second. So let's go ahead and compile and save. Okay. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to open up the new level, and this is the part that has gotten different. Everything up till now is the same as it's always been. This is where it gets different. They've changed the CarBodyEdit scene, they've changed the blueprint thing. It's all in one package now. It's actually much easier to use, but it's different. So this is what this tutorial will address. Let's go ahead and open up that scene. There's a couple different ways to do that. We can come up here and we can do open level. I like to use Control O. It's much faster for me. It's Control O. It's the same exact thing. You can come up here, File, Open Level, or Control O. Then Content, I'm just going to go into Content. I'm going to go into the search bar. I'm going to search for thumb. And there's two options. There's the thumbnail generator level car and the thumbnail generator level fixture. We're doing a car. So we're going to do this one. And this is the new level. So go ahead and open that up. And I'm going to start simulating right off the bat. And that takes place right up here in the play button. Now you can use this drop down to hit simulate. If you just have the play button, you'll kind of need to do that. Or you can just hit Alt S in the viewport and it will begin simulating. Alright, now I'm going to come up over here, and it's a big long list, it's easy to get lost in. So I'm going to kind of organize it by using the search bar. I'm going to tap in the search bar here. I'm going to type in A_B for A_body edit scene blutility, and there is what I'm looking for. So I need the A body scene utility. If you don't use the search bar, you'll end up just scrolling and scrolling and scrolling until you find it down here. It's easier just to A_B and do that. So once you have that, this box right here under the default tab, it might be collapsed when you open it for the first time. So go ahead and open up default, and this is your next step. So we're going to go over here to our blueprint and just highlight it. Just click on it until it turns yellow. And then I'm going to come over here to where this little arrow is and just click the arrow. And it's going to go ahead and load the variant BX underneath here. And everything else is fine. I don't have to worry about engine position unless I am doing a mid or a rear engine car, but I'm not. I'm doing a front engine car. Double wishbone is fine. And I'm going to load the body. And there you can see we have our body loaded up. Now what we're going to do is come over here. We'll actually click on the body itself. and you'll see these little blue boxes here. Those are your bones. You'll remember we set those up in Blender right here. That's your bones, right? There's little blue boxes. So anyway, we'll set those up here in a second. Before we jump ahead, let's now that we've clicked on the car, you'll see that you have our little variant right here. Let's go ahead and start opening and filling these guys out. And this is a part where I recommend you start saving frequently, because the Unreal Editor has a tendency, or at least in the past, it's had a tendency to crash at this section. So every time you make changes, save them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go under name, and I'm just going to go ahead and give it a name. We'll call it something like BX 5-door. I don't know what to butcher it, but I'm just going to give it that for a name. Let's see. I'm going to skip some of this stuff here. Is released levy, cargo subtracts. Yeah, because in this case, the cargo box does intersect with the cabin box. So I am going to go ahead and tick cargo subtracts on that one. Body variant type is a sedan. Oh man, what year? 1978-ish or something like that. I don't know what year this would be good for. 2 doors, a 5-door, and maximum number of seat rows we'll set at 2. All right. We're going to go ahead and hit Control S to save. All right. Now, let's see, vertical position. Now, so we're going to set this guy up here. Let me get into side view, like from the right. And as you can see, maybe I want to be from the left. Maybe from the left side. That makes a little more sense to me. Anyway, yeah, you can see we've got the chassis all messed up, right? Like, where's the other wheel and what's going on? So, yeah, the view is a little screwy. So let's see if we can't fix this up a little bit here. Let's start at the wheelbase. So let's forget about vertical position. Let's go down here and find footprint. And let's make a wheelbase of, I don't know, what do you think, 200 to start with? That's nowhere near long enough. 250. Okay, that's a start. Let's now we go back up to the what are we doing here? The Y offset. And let's give it some offset here until it kind of lines up a little bit better. Maybe get the wheels kind of like that. We can change this into lit view if we want. Let's see a little bit better maybe. Needs a little bit more wheelbase. So let's crank that up some. Oh, that was pretty decent right off the bat there. Let me do just a few more. What am I at? 268? That's probably pretty good. Alright, let's go into front view and we'll set the track width. Right, so the width is going to be over here, right? So I don't know, 150-ish. It's way too wide. 120, 130. Alright, let's get back into perspective view because I know there's this weird kind of wheel arch thing and I don't want to clip through the wheel arch. And it looks like, I zoom in here, it looks pretty close. Whoa. Whoa! Sorry about the vertigo and everything. And no, it's not quite right, is it? I think we might need just a little more wheelbase. Let's make it 270, 272. Let me take a look at the front. Oh, I do not like this green. Alright. Yeah, that's probably alright. Let me take back into orthographic left view. Yeah, okay. Alright, yeah, sure. We'll use that. Let's go ahead and save. Control S. And another way that we need to save these as we go on is going to come up here to Edit Blueprint, and we're going to apply the instance changes to the blueprint as we move along. And then you'll see you get your little star. Go ahead and save it. Now if you crash, at least what you've changed has been fixed. So let's get back into wireframe view. We've got our wheelbase and our track set. I think we might need to deal with height a little bit. Let's see about... there we went. It just crashed. Good thing I saved. Anyway, yeah, let's give this thing some ground height. I know the lip comes down a ways, so I want to definitely offset this some. Give it a little bit of extra ground height. Just because of the way the car body's set. Maybe that's a little too much. Maybe something like that. Default suspension height, let's just set that to 0 or 5. Maybe that's what I could do. We'll just kind of do something like that. It's going to have some pretty good ride height, I think. Alright, back to perspective view. Go ahead and save that. Alright, so what else can I do here? Alright, so the firewall. Let's go back into let's go back into left view, wireframe. Let's set up our firewall here. So we've got the front firewall, and right now it's way over here in the back of the car, which is not where we want it. So let's go stick it in the front somewhere, about where a firewall would go. Yeah, that's probably about a good place, somewhere underneath the cowl, maybe a little bit forward of the cowl. We've got a front wheel drive car here, so that should be okay. Let's set the nose length a little bit. Oh, this car body's going to have some issues. As you can see, the chassis is going to stick out at the bottom of the car body because there's just too little room here. So I'm going to set the nose length to 0. I'll let the modeler know that it needs to do a little bit of extra space down here. The back looks like it has enough room, and we can do the rear. We don't need to do anything with the rear firewall because it's not a mid-engine, but you see if I set the rear to 15, that's fine. We've set it to like 5, it'll probably be good. That should be good. So that puts the rear right about there. The front might just clip through. It might not. It might be all right. Let me give it a little bit of negative length on the front nose length, like -2, just to maybe give it a little bit of breathing room. See if that even helps. All right, so we did all the settings. We did the vertical position. We did the front, the rear, the footprint. Now we're onto the wheel. So I'm going to go ahead and save again. We're going to apply the instance changes to the blueprint. Save. Now I'll go ahead and go back into perspective mode, and let's talk about how to set up wheels. It'd be a lot easier if I could see them. But what I like to do is pick a default rim diameter, and something like this is probably, I don't know, a 13 or a 14-inch rim from the factory. Let's go with a 13. I don't know, maybe a 14. 14's probably all right. Default wheel width, I don't know, 185 seems probably pretty fair. All right, now I'm going to start with default wheel diameter to pick what I think the maximum size will be, because the only time you can see that is when you're playing with default. So let me go something like 70. That's a pretty big tire, and you can see it's clipping through over here, so that's too big. Let's try 65. 65 is a pretty big tire. It's not clipping through over here, it doesn't look like. And it's clipping through a little bit, so even 65 is a little too big. So let's try 63. 62. Let's just go with 62 as the maximum wheel diameter. So I'll just enter that there. Now let's go for minimum. This is basically an aesthetic kind of choice, and go with the smallest wheel, maybe a 50. That's really tiny for this car. Let's do it. 50 as the default, as the smallest. Now that puts our default somewhere in like the 55 or 56 range. Probably looks right. Maybe even 58. Maybe even 60 looks better. Yeah, 60 is probably a good default size. Let's go with that. All right, so I've got 62 max, 50 minimum, 60 default, and it should probably be better if we could get this wheel well to have more space, and the whole thing needs to morph more so that you can get more space back here. Alternatively, we could make the track a tiny bit narrower, and we can come over here and we can come over to the track and maybe make it 125 so it's a little bit narrower, gives that rear wheel a little bit more space in this situation. Alright, let's go ahead and apply those instance changes to the blueprint and save. Alright, now we're going to do aero. And I generally tend to kind of steal aero numbers from other cars in automation. There is a spreadsheet that you can use. It's a little bit hokey, and you always kind of end up with pretty similar numbers anyway. So a car like this, it's not real-world drag values, because there are additional drag values added for cooling and horsepower and things like that to the car body when you build an engine. So the bigger the engine, the more cooling that's needed, the more drag the body will have. So it starts out as if it had no grills. So you got to set the drag value a little bit lower than what you might expect. So this car body is probably in real life something like a 0.36 coefficient of drag. So we'll set it to like 0.32 is probably a more realistic speed. It's got a nice sloped back, so that helps a lot. And the most important aerodynamic shape of a car is the back, not the front. So when you have this nice sloping edge that kind of breaks the airflow, it gives you a more aerodynamic shape. That's why you see Priuses kind of look like that. They're very tapered in the back. Alright, so then we're going to put a little bit of lift, so it's going to be 0.00, something like 0.003, and I'll put negative 0.003, so that happens lift all the way down there, and that should do it. Go ahead and apply the instant changes to the blueprint and save. Let's set up our bones. So all we got to do that is we're going to click on our box. Probably could have done this first, it's no big deal. And I'm just going to drag this guy out a little bit. Oh, snapping is on. If you find that, maybe that's why the ground plane wouldn't move before. But anyway, all right. So if you can't move your bones because this grid snapping is on, we got up here. We got to turn this little button off, and then we should be able to move. There we go. And move our bones. And like I said, I set this up in Blender, and I did not really care. I just wanted to show what the point was and how this kind of works. So we'll just move this into positions. Pretend that this is a nice morph. Right click and add to limits, and you'll see you get this little blue box with a line on it now. You don't have to do the other side. It will automatically figure out what to do to the other side. And so for a front bone, it's just going to be something like you can push it in a little bit and add it to the limits, and then you can also pull it out and add it to the limits like that, and then you will have your limits set up for your bones. And then every time you set up a bone, it saves. I mean, it doesn't save the blueprint though, so you still have to manually save the blueprint. Alright, so there you go, that's bones. Shape keys you don't have to worry about, they're automatically taken care of, you don't have to set them up. Okay, to do our thumbnails now, don't stop simulating. We're already here, we don't have to open up a new level, we don't have to do anything. All we gotta do is walk on over here with our mouse button and hit generate thumbnail. Bam, it's done. Open up your thumbnail folder. This is important. If you don't do this, it won't show up. So you gotta double click and save both of your blueprints, then you can stop, and now you're ready to export your mod. That's simple. We're gonna share our mod. It's this guy right here. I'm going to share it into the folder on the desktop, just so I can check it out here. Where did I put that? I think I put it in here. Let me delete that old one. Go ahead and do that. And we're gonna cook the mod up. Alright, now it's time to just drag our folder from our mod over from our folder that we just cooked it into Automation Game. I'm not going to cover the Automation Workshop publishing tool because I've done that in a different video. This is just a way for you to test your mods out without having to publish them and go through that whole thing. So the first thing you do is find the folder where your Automation Game is stored. For you, it's probably going to be something like program files. For me, I have my Steam folder on a different drive. If you do that, then that'll make sense also. But you need to find your Steam folder. Then you're going to find Steam Apps, Common, Automation, UE421, Automation Game, and Plugins. That is where the folder is going to go. Now, wherever you cooked your mod, like I cooked it in this mod folder, I'm going to go ahead and open up Windows No Editor, Automation Game, Plugins, and I'm going to copy this one, and I'm going to go ahead and paste it into this folder. Now I just launch Steam, and launch Automation. Now click the No Launcher option. If you're doing it this way, if you do it this way, it's used to at least delete your mod. I think it still does. You want to do this so you don't end up losing and deleting your mod. So let's do that. Hit play. And we're going to take a look at this car body and automation and see what it looks like. Alright, let's have a look, shall we? Jump in the sandbox. Let me open up this old car that I've got here. We'll hit revise. And yeah, that's not the right car. Let's go find the right car. And go grab the body. Should be in 1978 somewhere. There you are. There's our mod. There's a little mod tag on it right there. Cool, let's take a look. Ah, there's our little car body. Before we deal with the morphs or anything, let's make sure that the engine fits and everything. So I've got, what do I have, a 1.7 in that old car? Let me see if I can crank it up a little bit. I set this one up as a front wheel drive. So, engines fit. 2.2 liters, a pretty big 4-cylinder. It's a little tight fit in there, but it fits. That's not so bad. Alright, cool. Big old, what do we got, 84 horsepower powerhouse. Yeah, that's what happens when you build an engine in like 10 seconds. Alright, so let's take a look at our morphs and everything. We got our, I got that guy there, and we got that guy there, and we got this guy over here, shape key, and two ugly morphs. There we go. Alright, so that's it. That's getting your car body into automation. start checking it for checking our UVs. Just drag a bunch of vents around and make sure that the UV holes stamp the way that they're supposed to. It looks like there's something going on with this car here. I'm not sure what that's about, but I didn't make the car. You know, that's something that you got to work with and try to figure out what's causing that. So anyway, there you go. There's your new steps for getting your car body into automation in the Car Company Tycoon game. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comments below, and I'll catch you on the next one.